Welcome to GridMarkets Tutorials. In this video, we explore several practices that will help improve your workflow when working on your projects, as well as saving you time and money. The goal of this video is to help refine your rendering and simulation process with GridMarkets, making it efficient and straightforward. Submitting test frames. As with all render farms, it's always best to not assume that what works in your local environment will produce identical results on GridMarkets, so it is highly advisable to test with a handful of representative frames to ensure results are as expected. This also ensures that you don't waste a lot of credits and time generating incorrect results. If it stays mostly consistent, then you may want to test with every 10th or 100th frame, but if it's quite variable, then select frames that are representative of the different sections of the shot. You can adjust the frame range in the GridMarkets submission node, where you can set the start and end frames and the increment, or select a list of individual frames to run. This allows you to render several individual frames from the sequence or specific intervals, giving you an approximate idea of the entire scene. If you run into any issues, lower the resolution for your render tests until you're sure everything is coming back correctly. It's also a good idea to render only a few frames at a time to confirm that the problem has been resolved before moving on to a full render. Once these tests have been completed, you can also use our price calculator to estimate how much the full job will cost and how long it will take. You can even get an estimate of how much it would cost and how long it would take on different kinds of machines. It's an easy and convenient tool. You'll find the link in the description. Once you're happy with the results, costs, and timings, you can just restart the job in Envoy with the remaining frame ranges and even select another machine type. Please see the video for more information on Envoy. The link is in the description. Prepare the cache. It's highly recommended to cache out your project if it takes a long time to cook. This will significantly reduce the time and cost for each frame on the render farm, since the scene won't have to cook again. Caching is also a great troubleshooting step when something isn't cooking properly. By removing the need to recook and reducing the number of potential failure points, you make the process much more stable and reach first pixel much faster. And for simulations, this step is absolutely essential. Chunking method. As a rule of thumb, if your frames take less than 1 minute each to complete, then you can use the chunking method to process them in batches in a single task on a given node, instead of rendering only one frame per task. This will reduce the time to start the application for each frame. The downside is that if any frame fails or the task is terminated, then you will need to submit a new job to run the frames that failed and did not start in that batch. There are several ways to do this. Method 1. First, create reference copies of your ROP node for each chunk range you want to use. It's best to match this number to the number of machines you want to use: 5 for economy, 50 for standard, or 100 for rush. Unlink all valid frame range and start /n/inc parameters on the ROP nodes. Set valid frame range to render frame range only strict on all ROP nodes. Adjust the start /n/inc values so that the ranges touch each other without leaving any unwanted gaps. Connect each ROP to a batch node. Connect all batch nodes to a render submit node. Prepare the project, finalize any remaining details, and upload the job to GridMarkets. A second method is through the chunks parameter on the LOP submitter, which is available when using Husk. If you want to learn more about the GridMarkets LOP submitter HDA, check out its dedicated video or visit our tutorials page. Both links are in the description. This second, more advanced method is possible thanks to GridMarkets support for PDG/tops. If you want to learn more about PDG/tops with GridMarkets, feel free to visit our tutorial page or watch the dedicated video. Both links are in the description. Defining custom environment variables. If you're using custom variables in your Houdini project, you'll need to define them manually in the GridMarkets submission HDA to avoid errors. This is also important if your environment variables are set by default in Windows or Mac OS, since GridMarkets runs Linux on its nodes. The process for defining custom variables is quite simple. First, go to the GridMarkets submission node. Then click on the Environment tab. There you can add as many variables as needed. In the env name field, you can specify the name of the variable. If the variable is already defined in the scene or in Houdini.env, the next parameter, env value, should autocomplete after typing the name in env name and pressing tab. Important when entering the env value, make sure to use only forward slashes. The HDA containing nested assets. If your scene uses an HDA with nested assets, follow these steps to avoid issues with these files. Make sure to add a spare file parameter to the HDA at the top level. Remember to keep it unlocked. This way, the GridMarkets HDA can detect the cache files inside the package and add them to the upload queue. Ensure that the inner HDA includes a file parameter linked to the dependent assets. Then reference that parameter from the top-level HDA to define its own file path. If you encounter issues creating spare parameters, SideFX offers a simple tutorial that explains the process. The link is in the description. If you want to see an example of this setup, visit our knowledge base and go to the article Houdini HDAs containing nested assets. There, you'll find a downloadable file showing all the details of this process. The link to the article is also in the description. Timeshift Nodes. Though the preflight does its best to identify all needed files, it cannot interpret timeshift nodes, so it's very important to ensure that the necessary files and frames are uploaded correctly to avoid issues. The frame range can vary, and sequences might not be fully uploaded, but preventing this is quite simple. Just follow these steps. First, go to the GridMarkets submission node. Click on the Advanced tab. There, you'll find the Upload All Frames for Selected Patterns option. Make sure to check it. This will force the complete sequences of input files to be uploaded, preventing potential problems caused by the timeshift node. Caching your project is also very helpful in this situation, as it bakes the changes into the cached files and removes all potential issues related to recooking or missing frames. Clearing the manifest. Right after submitting a job, whether for rendering or simulation, and after configuring in the preflight window which files will be uploaded to GridMarkets to perform that job, a manifest containing this information is saved. It's important to note that if you manually deselect any of the files that are automatically flagged for upload, that choice will also be stored in the manifest. The idea is to save your preferences and make the process faster and more convenient. However, in some cases, minor issues may arise due to the data stored in the manifest. You may also run into problems when trying to manually upload new files or folders. In these situations, the best solution is simply to delete it. First, select the GridMarkets, Render Submit HDA, and go to the Advanced tab. There you'll find the Clear Manifest button. Click it. To ensure that the manifest has been properly removed, go to the directory where your Houdini project is stored and check that there is no folder named .gridmarkets. To finish the process, restart Houdini. Thank you for watching and enjoy simulating and rendering with GridMarkets. If you want to learn more about how to optimize your workflows with GridMarkets, please see our tutorial page.